that we have to call a spade a spade. And this particular effort is to bring to the attention of the world and to expect them and to really encourage them to see things based on evidence as they are. Now, I know that the Interior Minister has already done a press conference on what we are calling the Lahore incident yesterday. This morning, the Foreign Secretary of Pakistan was able to call in the diplomatic corps and share this dossier with them. This dossier, as you already know, has details, evidence of how India has found to be fully behind this particular incident which led to the loss of life. And we did not, unlike our neighbors, go the next day and blame one country or the other. We waited till we had strong, hard evidence to be making the case that we're making today. Now, let me say that we all claim that terrorism in all its forms and manifestations is condemnable. We also know that it poses a serious threat to peace and security. And I think if there's one thing that has bogged this region down, it is the scourge of terrorism. And there's one country which has been on the receiving end of the scourge of terrorism, it is Pakistan. Yet the other country, which is the source of terrorism in Pakistan, continues to play the drum of being the victim of terrorism. I mean, it's a remarkable world, right? It's a very interesting proposition that we find ourselves in. Now, coming back to the Lahore incident, it is a clear evidence of a terrorist attack which was planned, which was supported by India, which was to target innocent civilians in Pakistan, Lahore, Johor town. It reflects India's persistent hostility towards my country and the use of terrorist proxies to achieve nefarious objectives. And we believe objectives which are actually going to harm them also. Because when you try and burn a neighbor's house, the fire will come and burn you too. Our professional law enforcement agencies and judicial authorities have brought the perpetrators of this attack to justice who have received punishment, but these are only the frontmen, as we all know. The masterminds and the facilitators remain at large and under Indian state patronage and protection. I can assure you that the government of Pakistan will pursue this relentlessly at every level. Now, India has already earned the infamy for its terrorist designs and actions. Its actions in the IIOJK, the infamous massacre in Indian Gujarat, which made some countries close its door on many well-known Indian leaders, and which still ensures that many other Indian leaders still continue to glorify this incident. They want to identify with that incident rather than away from the incident. This shows the psyche which is currently going on. And I tell you, it's a dangerous one. The Samjhota train incident that we all know about, its terrorist proxies continue to use neighbors' territories and blatant support to Baloch militant organizations. All of these point to one objective and one method. The objective is to undermine Pakistan's peace and security, and the method is simple: terrorism. Now, we can call what India is doing to be many things, okay? One I think, fragment of a sentence which describes it well is chronic terrorism syndrome, okay? And how do you define it? You perpetrate terrorism, you fully supported and abetted by the state. The Lahore incident, the Samjhota train incident, the Yadev evidence all point out to that. You play as a victim of terrorism to gain international sympathy and create subterfuge. No country has used terrorism better than India. To play on the back of the attention of the world on terrorism and to play the victim, no country has benefited from it better than India. Portray yourself or itself as the champion of counterterrorism. And it's interesting because this continues to be a country which has made no contribution whatsoever to has always played lip service, but had made no contribution to international counterterrorism in any way. If you compare Pakistan and India, you will find Pakistan will always be in the forefront of counterterrorism, of ensuring that we are a player in the world to try and make sure that terrorism does not continue to haunt us. It also continues to divert international attention from its state-sponsored terrorism and human rights violations in the IIOJK. It blatantly violates international laws and regulations to continue terrorist activities and their support, facilitation and financing. Maybe it will not be very wise to bring it in this context, but allow me to remind all of you that India is a country which continues to be what I call a rogue state. Victims who lost lives or were injured in the Lahore terrorist incident, as well as their families and loved ones. They look towards all of us for justice. We have shared this dossier with the members of the United Nations Security Council. We are also sharing it with the UN Secretary General. We hope that they would look into this evidence and fulfill their responsibility. Pakistan, for its part, will remain fully committed to eradicate terrorism in all its form and manifestations. As far as this specific issue is concerned, I know you already know from the Interior Minister's briefing, but I will just repeat. Red warrants through Interpol have already been issued. Mutual legal assistance requests to countries whose territory has been used for this incident have been sought, and we are, as we already said, will be formally taking it up at the UN. We have shared the copies, are in the process of sharing the copies of the dossier with the Security Council members and the United Nations Security Secretary General. And our expectations of the world is that if this is allowed, because of India's growing, because of what we call the exigencies of political and economic interest, we will all have to pay the price for it. We will all have to pay the price for it. So with that.
Yes, please.
اور پھر ابھینندن اور ابھی یہ جو موجودہ ہوا ہے تو کیا آپ کو امید ہے کہ بھارت کو ان سب کچھ کا سزا ملے گا؟
امید پہ دنیا قائم ہے. سوری. سو دیکھیں, جو فیکٹ ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ اگر کوئی ملک ایک دوسرے کے اوپر ہم وہ تو کہہ سکتے ہیں, ایلیگیشنز لگانا آسان ہے, یہ ملک یہ کرتا ہے یہ. اگر ایک ملک کا ایک ایجنٹ پکڑا جائے, پھر وہ پوری طرح کہہ بھی دے کہ وہ کس کے ایجنڈے پہ آیا تھا, کس کا ایجنٹ تھا, اور وہ حاضر سروس ہو اور وہ نکل جائے, اور پھر بھی دنیا اس کو تسلیم نہ کرے یا اس کو کویسچن, سو دیٹ وڈ بی آئرونک. سو ہاں, ہمیں اس پہ امید ہے کہ یہ جو ان کا ٹریل آف ایویڈنس آتا جا رہا ہے, میں نے بلکہ آپ سے نام نہیں لیا نا, آپ نے اب یہ موقع دیا تو میں اس کا بتانا چاہوں گی کہ پچھلے 3 سالوں میں 211 individuals of law enforcement agencies have been attacked through raw-sponsored attacks. There have been 1,213 attacks in Pakistan in the last 3 years where we have evidence that they were raw-sponsored. Now, if I take you to the list of the last, آپ کہہ رہے ہیں نا کہ امید ہے, امید اسی چیز پہ ہو سکتی ہے نا کہ دنیا کو نظر آ جائے, سامنے آ جائے کہ کتنا زیادہ ان کی طرف سے یہ ہوتا جا رہا ہے. Now, attack on PC Hotel Gwadar, 11th May 2019. Attack on Chinese consulate Karachi, November 2018. Attack on oil exploration company at Gwadar, October 15th, 2020. Suicidal attack at Gwadar, 20th August 2021. Suicidal attack on FC camp at Panjgore Noshki, February 2022. Indian disinformation campaign we all know about. So really, my question is, how much is too much? And is this not too much? And how would we allow a country to drum the terror, to use the terrorism drum on a platform like the Security Council? And how do we deny, then questions are asked about the credibility of these institutions, of course. So I think this is clearly a very serious matter, and real questions need to be asked.
Yes, ma'am.
منسٹر صاحب, میں آپ سے جاننا چاہوں گی, راشدہ سیال اب تک سے پلوامہ اٹیک ہو جائے, پٹھان کوٹ ہو جائے یا ممبئی اٹیکس ہو جاتے ہیں, تو پاکستان کے اوپر جس طریقے سے انڈیا کی جانب سے جو ایک کیس, اسٹرانگ کیس بنایا جاتا ہے انٹرنیشنل لیول پہ, پھر فیٹف میں بھی پاکستان کو پولیٹیسائز کر کے جس طریقے سے بلیک میل کیا جاتا ہے یا پریشرائز کیا جاتا ہے, جو آپ نے ایک پوری سلسلے بتائے جو اٹیکس انڈیا نے کیے پاکستان میں, کیا وجہ ہے کہ ہم اس طریقے سے اپنا کیس نہیں لڑ سکتے؟ ہمارا ڈپلومیٹک فیلئر ہے یا کیا وجہ ہے کہ فیٹف کے اندر ہم انڈیا کو لسٹنگ کیوں نہیں کروا سکتے ہیں؟ ایک تو یہ جاننا چاہوں گی. سیکنڈلی, اس کے متعلق آپ کا ریسنٹلی افغانستان کا وزٹ ہوا اور اس وزٹ کے حوالے سے بھی کچھ بات ہوئی کہ وہاں پر آپ کی جو میٹنگس تھیں ہائی آفیشلس کے ساتھ وہ نہیں ہو سکی ہیں. اس میں کس حد تک صداقت ہے کہ ایک خاتون وزیر خارجہ کے جانے سے شاید وہاں کوئی مسائل ہوئے؟ یہ ایک امپریشن ہے اور نیشنل اسمبلی میں بھی اس پہ بات ہوئی ہے, تو اس پہ آپ کا موقف جاننا چاہوں گی. شکریہ.
Okay. Again, I will not entirely agree with, I will speak in English because, I will not entirely agree with the fact that we have not been able to make a case. Okay. As I said, and I repeat, and I say this because as someone who's been associated with foreign policy management for many years now, I would have wished, I would have hoped 10 years back that 10 years from then, we'd be looking at a different region. That we'd be looking at a region which was at least moving towards opening doors towards each other, for its people, towards prosperity. But we see this continuation of trying to, bog the region down with the scourge of terrorism, right? Now these incidents, the fact that you have Yadav here, all these are clear signs of a very large country trying to dampen the entire region through its, what I would consider nefarious designs, right? I don't think these designs are good for India also, because India is also part of the neighborhood. It should want the prosperity of the neighborhood. Now that thought process is something that you can't change, that we would like to be able to change. So if you see in the last 5 to 10 years, India has changed tactics and become much worse than it used to be, where it is now propagating, extremism in some ways, and propagating against certain minorities. What it did in IIOJK, what it did for its own elections, sent jets into one nuclear power, sending jets into another nuclear power. Do we need evidence of more irresponsible behavior for the world? That's evidence enough. And then we all found out what was in there, in Balakot, which was told, the world was told that there were certain camps, etc., and we found there were some trees. That's it. Do we need more evidence as to what country is doing what? So I think that case is well made. I don't think it is. But as I said, there is the reality, and I'm not, on the I'm clearly saying this. There are political and economic exigencies which are making some entities look away from obvious things. We decided that we are not going to take any other questions, but that نہیں ایک منٹ افغانستان کے اوپر افغانستان کے اوپر نہیں لینا تھا, لیکن کیونکہ یہ کلیریفیکیشن دینے کا موقع مل رہا ہے, اس لیے میں یہ کوشچن بالکل ہوں گی. دیکھیں, پہلے تو ہمارا ایک اصول ہے, میں یہ اینڈ آئی ایم یوزنگ دس اپرچونیٹی, تھینک یو فار گیونگ می دس. ہم دفتر خارجہ ہیں, ٹھیک ہے, اسپوکس پرسن دفتر خارجہ کو ریپرزینٹ کرتی ہیں. ہم سارے یہاں پہ جو لوگ بیٹھے ہیں وہ اعلیٰ افسران دفتر خارجہ کے ہیں. ان کا مینڈیٹ سوشل میڈیا مینجمنٹ نہیں ہے, ان کا مینڈیٹ حکومت پاکستان کے لوگوں کے انٹرسٹ کو پرزرو کرنا اور اپنی جاب کرنا ہے. سو پلیز forgive us if we consider that to be a secondary job, not the. So we are less careful about the, کہتے ہیں نا تماشا that is going on in social media, and more careful about the messaging that we're doing to the people that we want, that is our job to interact with. So بہت ساری چیزیں ایسی ہوتی ہیں جن کو ہم اگنور کر دیتے ہیں, جو ایک ڈس انفارمیشن کیمپین چل رہی ہوتی ہے. لیٹ می کیٹیگوریکلی سے, کوئی ایسی میٹنگ نہیں تھی جو ہم نے مانگی ہو جو ہمیں ڈینائی کی گئی. تو وہ ایک آ رہا تھا کہ جی a certain minister refused to meet. We were there for a certain number of hours. We could only fit in a certain number of meetings, and that there's absolutely no truth in that whatsoever. In fact, if you were to ask me what is my assessment, I was very well received, as I expected to be. There was no reason why I should not have been well received. The other thing is that as far as
this time to effectively present Pakistani narrative or Indian terrorism, what strategy you are adopting? Your lobby in Washington is weak, your lobby in UN is weak. And second, the previous dossier when it was presented, we were told that Pakistan is also considering to present it somewhere in a formal tribunal or a court of law for a formal punishment. So what international law says, are you considering to take up this with some international tribunal, crimes tribunal, or some international court of justice, so that the issue could be formally, legally under international law, because Indian state terrorism is being committed and that has been established. So it becomes a full-fledged case against state of India.
Thank you. That was a very, very detailed question, and just to say, I'm very used to hearing Mateen Haider from the Dawn News, so it seems a bit... Acha. So, international tribunals, no, we don't. I can't say yes or no. We have decided clearly. Okay? It's very clear. When you say you have shared it with this, and what was the use? What was the use? The use was that everybody is more well informed than before. The use is that everybody knows that there is undeniable evidence of a certain country's being a sponsor of terrorism while it continues to drum. Let's not discount the exigencies of economic and political interests. They are always in play in realpolitik. Okay? Let's not deny that. Let's accept that as a reality. However, has that had no impact? Of course it has had an impact. I feel that the sharing of the previous dossiers has also had an impact. And as far as asking, Keji, what is your strategy and your lobbying is weak, I'd rather my lobby be weak but my case be strong. Okay? I think it's important that we don't want to spend resources on marketing the case. We want the case. We want Pakistan to be a strong country which is itself, discounts any or requirement for any lobbying. And I think today I will slightly at least disagree with you and to say that nobody is listening to Pakistan. I don't think that's the case at all. I think we see a lot of openings within Europe, within the US. As you know, the foreign minister is currently in fact, he had gone specifically to participate in New York, in the UN Security Council and in the G77 Development Ministers meeting. And from that platform also, he would be raising this issue, the foreign minister himself, right? And then, of course, he will have whatever sideline meetings in DC. So this is going to be a consistent, persistent effort, okay? But let me say this again. I would rather that a country like mine not have to waste its energy in these efforts and would rather use its efforts towards regional connectivity, towards prosperity, towards projects which are for mutual peace and prosperity rather than projects which have to show how the other has been a perpetrator of terrorism in my country. So we would hope that this will just, that the mindset would change. That
115 पुलिस वाले 11 माह में मारे गए हैं, इसी तरह 1000 से ज़ायद अटैक हुए हैं. तो इनमें कोई ये नज़र आया आपको कोई रॉ या इंडिया उधर से बैठ के यहाँ पे कर रहा है? और आखिरी एक लाइन में कि अभी आपका छोटा सा टेन्योर रह गया नवंबर का इस गवर्नमेंट का, इस सारे मामले में कि हमने उनको कह दिया अब हम पे उल्टे सीधे इल्जामात हिंदुस्तान भी लगाता है और हमने तो ये एविडेंस के साथ ये बात कर दी, कोई रे ऑफ होप आपको फॉरेन मिनिस्टर नजर आती है कि हम कोई रिज्यूम कर सकेंगे कि ये मामला खत्म हो और दोनों ममालिक पीस टॉक्स रिज्यूम कर सकें?
नहीं, नो सप्लीमेंट्री. हाँ, इसका सवाल का सप्लीमेंट्री. ही डिजर्व्स अ करेक्ट आंसर. I will, Mateen, much as you are obviously very, very respectable and a senior journalist, etc., we just have to be fair, right? I will speak to you separately on this, okay? Acha, will India give these people over? We would hope, as a claimant of wanting to follow rules, processes, legal systems, clearly India would, right? Why would it not? And that is what we should consider from a responsible country. Is India a responsible country? I think that's a question that India has to answer. So my question is India a responsible country through these? Now, I think you have to be, I'm going to once again use this opportunity. पहले मैं आपके आखिरी सवाल का पहले जवाब दूंगी और आपने ये जो बीच वाला सवाल किया उसका बाद में. पॉलिसी स्टेट की होती है, पाकिस्तानी लोगों की इंटरेस्ट की होती है. I would expect enough maturity in the Pakistani political system to do whatever we've started which is good to be carried forward. And I think that's why I believe in a very strong institution in the form of the Foreign Office, because it is institutions like this which continue to guide and take guidance from political and dispensations. And I believe this institution is one which has been able to carry that mantle forward. Governments will come and governments will go, and governments will inshallah in future continue to पूरी अपनी term करें, but state policy is guided by state's interest. And I think that आज मैं हूँ, हमने बहुत सारा काम कोई हमें जो अच्छा लगा हम उसको forward लेके गए. इस्लामोफोबिया पे उन्होंने अच्छा काम किया, हम उसको आगे लेके जा रहे हैं. सो जो हमें अच्छा So that I won't be concerned about ہم جب تک ہیں یہ آفس چلے گا اور اس کے بعد نہیں چلے گا. ہمارے بعد بھی چلے گا اور ہمارے سے پہلے بھی چلتا رہے اور بہت اچھا چلتا رہے. اوکے ناؤ آپ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ کیا آپ کو رے آف ہوپ نظر آتی ہے. دیکھیں میں آپ کو ایک سمپل بات, اینڈ آئی ول سے دس, آئی تھنک اٹس امپورٹنٹ ٹو برنگ سم reality to how we conduct policy. I went to India as the first foreign minister of Pakistan who was born after the 1971 war. When I went to India, I said that we would hope that this process that we've started is not something that can be, that it cannot be stopped at any time, that that no forces will be able to stop this process now, that we will continue to make gains. kabhi zyada gains kar lenge, kabhi kam kar, but ek movement chalti rahegi. And we put our neck on the line, our political neck on the line, to say MFN status انڈیا کو دینا چاہیے, انڈیا کے ساتھ ٹریڈ نارملائزیشن کیا ایک تعلق شروع ہو جانا چاہیے, کیونکہ ہمارا مقصد کیا تھا کہ انڈیا کے ساتھ جو ہمارے باسکٹ آف پرابلمس ہیں ان میں بھرنے کے بجائے ان کو ہمیں آہستہ آہستہ ختم کرنا چاہیے. Now why were we able to do all of that? Because on the other side we had the person of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, who wanted his legacy as a peace builder, who wanted his legacy to say کہ ہم سیاچن کو mountain of peace میں convert کرنا چاہتے ہیں. Right? You need a player on the other side who's sending messages. Now, in the last 10 years, what messages has India sent to Pakistan? Do you want to go through the list of messages? Balakot, fighter jets, IIOJK. What messages has it sent internally to its own people? Now, the world can turn a blind eye to it. Unfortunately, we can't turn, because we are on the receiving end of this hegemonic, benevolent behavior of a very large country which also happens to be a nuclear state. Now, when everybody talks about threat perception, and you're seeing this a lot in the Indo-Pacific strategy and that arena, now, can you imagine the threat perception of a country like Pakistan being a neighbor of India and having gone through Balakot and having gone through all the other things which have happened, having gone through the Lahore incident? Do you think we have no right to feel threatened? Okay, so where we are today, we would hope that this ray of hope that you talk about is, that we will see a rainbow one day. And unfortunately, I'm unwilling to lose more decades. Kitni generations? آپ کس چیز کو پالنا ہے؟ ہاسٹیلیٹی کو پالنا ہے پوری زندگی؟ یہ تو ہمارے انٹرسٹ میں نہیں ہے نا. بٹ کیا اس وقت آپ کے پاس کوئی گلیمر آف ہوپ ہے؟ مجھے ایٹ مچ, because I was if you ask me, I will take the first opportunity that comes. But I was a pragmatist, I have to tell you. I don't see a glimmer of hope right now. We see a different message tomorrow. We'll be the first ones to let you know.
Thank you very much.
کس کا؟ اچھا, افغانستان والی بات. دیکھیں میں ایک اور بات آپ کو بتاتی ہوں. میں نے یہ لکلی ایک ہوتا ہے نا, ایک آپ کی بینچ بھی اس طرح ہوتی ہے. But one thing that I've learned from conducting diplomacy, I'd rather conduct diplomacy than talk about the diplomacy that we do, right? So I choose the conducting of diplomacy, which requires you to keep quiet more than to speak. Okay?
Thank you very much.